So good afternoon,
Yes,
everyone. My name is Patrick Lawrence-Frings. I'm the Chief Information Officer of Caisse des Dépôts and co-lead of the Finance Data Space with Dr. Stefan Brett.
Yeah, my name is Stefan Brett. A pleasure to be here today. I'm the co-lead with Patrick. I'm Director General at the Ministry of Economics at the State of Hessen in Germany. And I lead the finance domain in Gaia-X in Germany.
So Stefan, why a European finance data space and how did it all start?
Yeah, thank you. Why a European finance data space? The idea is that the finance sector is to contribute on two levels. That means, first of all, the new rules of Gaia-X for the European ecosystem in finance must be established and adapted to the finance sector. And second, we want to fill this all with life, with an ecosystem flourishing, because we think that if new innovation is built under Gaia-X standards and is successful, this will reinforce the rules and make them being applied and make Gaia-X grow. And the vision behind is that we want the finance sector be able to use latest technologies in a secure way, secure data application, to contribute to the big aims, societal aims like transition to a more green and sustainable economy, to have more integrity, not only in the finance sector but beyond, yeah, and get a competitive finance and European economy in general. And how did it come? I can say that I started with our, I'm focused on the platform project, which I will talk on later. And then I got an information from our German hub that there's a French finance sector Gaia-X initiative developing, and we got into contact in 2020, and already in November, a few months later, we had the first position paper, and now we have really many cases and topics going on and delivering also the first results, and that's a huge success. And maybe, Patrick, you want to say some words concerning what's going on and where we stand today after these 1.5 years.
Excellent. So actually, it all started in 2020. We set up a wonderful core team, mainly German-French, but also onboarding 6 other countries, so it's really expanding. We had already 5 quarterly meetings with the community, and as we will see a little later, 3 consortia are organized now, 2 are funded, and so we will speak about that a little later. We are going now to have a look at what are the benefits from the user side. Dirk, good afternoon. You are division head of Big Data Advanced Analytics at Commerzbank. Commerzbank joined Gaia-X last year, if I remember well. Can you explain why?
Yeah. Public cloud adoption is still for the financial industry very difficult. It's more or less ineffective. And we had in the years 2018-19 long discussions with cloud service providers how to, let's say, use public cloud, and this was last for years. And we realized that a lot of other institutions in Germany and in Europe as well have the same problems. So on a bilateral basis, they come all to a result how to, let's say, meet outsourcing guidelines, meet the requirements of ECB, and that took us a very long time. And that was the point where we came to the discussion with Gaia-X on the one hand, and on the other hand, founded a European Cloud User Coalition from Commerzbank side, where we have already 25 members, to set a path, or let's say, call it an open standard, that is compliant with all the European regulation. And that was a perfect fit with Gaia-X, that we want to head for, that not in the future all, let's say, institutions find their own solution for contractual, let's say, clauses, for security setups and how we, let's say, meet outsourcing guidelines, how we make an exit. We want to have their open framework and standard. And that is actually the main benefit when we talk about Gaia-X, that we hopefully come to the point, and also what Sandrine will later tell, that we have a common standard which can be applied to all financial institutions, and where we will be more effective in public cloud adoption, because that's still not completely, to be honest, the business case. So we need to find an easier path into public cloud. That's very, very essential. And therefore, what we are here doing together with Gaia-X, that we have policy rules, we have a labeling, and that will lead to a solution which can be used by financial industry. That's very, very important to make it much more effective as we currently need to do it on a bilateral basis. So what we are doing here must be superior to what we are doing on a bilateral basis. Very, very important.
Yeah, thank you very much. Aude, you're ITO Deputy Head of Core Banking of the Corporate Investment Bank, BNP Paribas, and a Gaia-X board member, even more important. And I want to mention that BNP Paribas was a day one member of Gaia-X, and we are interested to know, can you tell us why was there such an interest from your institution and you in the Gaia-X project?
Initiatives such as Gaia-X, aiming at promoting data in a secure and trusted way, are important for the financial insurance sector, but I will say more generally for most industries. Within the finance sector, sharing data as such is not new. We have some use cases on payment, on money transfer. What we see since several years, it's the data is becoming more a key pillar for the economy, and we see that the trend is increasing. Banks, and especially large ones like BNP Paribas, have to support and facilitate the economy and to accompany our clients in this new context. That is why it's important for BNP Paribas to participate in initiatives like Gaia-X, who contribute to develop a framework to enable data sharing in a trusted, in a secure way, compliant with European values, compliant with European legislation. This framework should also be compatible with the banking regulation, and I will say that it will be true for other regulated industries. The current discussion within Gaia-X allows to define a common framework, a general framework, which is common to all the data spaces. And this is really important to foster and, I would say, enable and foster new services cross-partner and or cross-industries. Within the finance and insurance data space, we are today working on the compliance by design that I just highlighted, and what it means for our industry and in comparison with other industry, and Sandrine will explain it more in detail. Similarly, in the Gaia-X architecture working group, we are working on the mechanism, on the concept and on the mechanism around data sharing in a trusted way. And common to, I would say, concept common to all the data spaces, and we are ensuring that it will be applicable for the banking sector. And that's why it's really important that user, and I would say especially user from the finance group, participate to all these discussions. For that, and I will say that is for all these reasons that BNP Paribas is, as you mentioned, a day one member. is contributing actively to all this working group and applied as user and as representative of the banking sector in the board of Gaia-X. And operating in 48 countries, we aim at bringing our expertise in the banking sector, but as well in the other sector in which our clients evolve, and with different regulation regarding cloud, regarding data protection, cybersecurity, fraud against spies, as examples.
Many thanks, Aude. A very, very heavy program. I think we have Christoph Schapper from the European Central Bank online.
Yes, that's true.
Hi, Christoph. Nice
Hi.
to have you on board. Are you connected?
I'm connected, yes.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
So we are very glad that you're with us. It looks like ECB may have joined Gaia-X recently.
That's actually true. I think we were formally admitted yesterday, so
Wow.
we are very happy to be a new Gaia-X member.
Congratulations and thank you. So welcome welcome formally to our community. So we guess that it's building on interest on the Gaia-X initiative. Can you also say a word about the ECB interest for Gaia-X?
Yes, we of course here as a user, and I'm actually an IT person, so for us the motivation is actually very much in line with what Dirk said before. We are looking very much that we cannot build anymore ourselves basic IT service and concentrate on infrastructure. We want to consume this as a commodity in order that we can really put importance on more value-added services like AI, like data management. But indeed, we have quite some obstacles of really consuming, and of course via means of public cloud primarily, commodity IT services. Because, well, the market is largely dominated by US and Chinese providers, and we of course want to maintain and not give up our European values. And for that we need frameworks, we need standards, we need certifications, we need a safe space protecting our European values in which we can work, but in which we can work at the same pace as I was listening to the previous actually discussion where people said in China the pace is much higher. So in order to have the same pace here, we really need to free us up from this basic infrastructure, core IT work, and we need to consume it, and we need to have the framework in which we can do that, and that's for us a strong motivation.
Thank you very much, Christoph, and we see the convergence. So at this stage, looking at user needs, we can see that the finance industry is today hindered in moving to the cloud, in moving to a full data sharing mode, and especially connecting to other data spaces, and that Gaia-X is definitely the way to move forward for cloud adoption and data sharing in a secured way. So that's the reason why, as you mentioned, Aude and Dirk, we have that compliance by design work. So thank you, Sandrine Bogelele, to be with us. Thank you, Professor Anne Richard, to be with us. So Anne, you are a data protection and information processing law professor at Frankfurt University of Applied Science. You're also Vice Director of the Responsible Digitally Centered, and it seems your work is particularly focused on data sharing issues. In your way, what is your overall assessment of data issues, opportunities, and constraints in the finance industry ecosystem?
Yes, thanks first for your invitation. Thank you. Yes, first of all, in my mind, data sharing may play an important role in the finance industry, for example, in terms of determining benchmarks for credits or company ratings. And of course, I'm aware that some people are always afraid of data protection. This is a fact. And so, but not all use cases in the finance industry the data space require personal data, which means information about a natural person, a so-called data subject. Even non-personal data or anonymized data may also be valuable in individual cases. Look, for example, at the ESG data. I think Stefan Britt will come on later on the ESG data. And I think it's very important to develop and foster such use cases. But however, if personal data is processed and if personal data is affected, discrimination must be prevented, and you need a legal basis for the data processing, and you need a specific purpose. And the Data Governance Act, which was passed in May this year, and which refers to the so-called data intermediation services, doesn't create a new legal basis for data processing. And therefore, it doesn't improve the current legal situation and in this respect. But nevertheless, in accordance to the GDPR, a legal basis could, for example, be a legitimate interest of a company, which requires a balancing of interests, which means, in short, that you have to reconcile the fundamental rights of a data subject with the freedom of a company to conduct a business. And but this has to be verified. And you have to, yes, you have to verify that your interest is more worth than the interest of the individual. But let me mention in this context that the German Banking Act already includes the required interest in some context, because there are, in relation or with regards to the default prevention or money laundering, you have already the balancing of interest in this German Act.
Thank you very much, Professor Richard. On your reflections, which you offered here to our community, can you say why you engage, and I know you engage in a specific project of Gaia-X, the Eurodat data sharing on secure execution platform. Can you say how you want to bring in and build on these ideas such an execution platform?
Yes. The different use cases are very interesting in this domain. And within the Eurodat project, I'm involved with my data protection point of view. And in our legal sub-project, we focus on the implementation on a data trustee and on the necessary legal foundations in accordance with the GDPR as well as the Data Governance Act. And besides, it is very interesting to discuss new technical solutions and to discuss about the concerns as well as the technical and legal options, and also with a view to the European community, like today in this conference. It's very interesting, and I find this could also gain more independence, or it's a chance to gain more independence from other technologies which finally may safeguard data protection and the compliance with the GDPR. And furthermore, I have been working in the field of data protection for many years and for companies, and therefore I'm aware of the economic interests of a company. But nevertheless, as I mentioned before, these interests have to be reconciled with the interests of a data subject. And in this context, it is very interesting and a challenging question in what way we can implement and use a new instrument, a data trustee, and at best to enhance and to support data protection and to increase trust in data sharing. For example, by establishing appropriate mechanisms, for example, by the idea of privacy by design, it's very interesting, and in order to improve the current approach. But nevertheless, data protection is not the only significant aspect in this project. I told it before, there are a large field of non-personal data, and therefore I'm very happy to contribute within Eurodat with my other colleagues within a team. And currently, for example, we are developing a modular contract kit, which could also be helpful for medium-sized companies by offering them support.
Yeah, thank you very much. That is very interesting, and maybe we come back later on. And I want to turn now to Sandrine, Sandrine Bourget-Leleu. You are juriste conseil référent at the Direction Juridique Group of BPCA.
Yes. Legal advisor, regulatory.
Legal advisor.
Yes.
And you have regularly participated in French working groups on cloud issues.
Yes.
And can you share with us some of the issues and ideas which you worked on?
Yes. Good afternoon, everybody. So I was effectively a part of the work of the Haut Comité Juridique de Place, Legal Eye Committee for Financial Market of Paris. And we conducted and released a legal report on the outsourcing of cloud banking in May 21. And this report focusing on issues and recommendation as well to the French authorities and the European Commission related to the DORA regulation, which was at that time just a proposal. And this report has been written by a core team made up of 2 law firms, Clifford Chance, Spitzpool, and in-house legal expert from different banking establishments, member of French Banking Federation, such as Société Générale, Crédit Agricole, BNP, Banque Postale, BPCE. And we focused on 4 main issues faced by financial entities on their cloud outsourcing. So the first 3 issues that I will mention concern all kinds of users of any sectors. And the last one, the first one, is specific to the banking sector. So the first 3 concerns are cloud security, risk related to the composition of the cloud provider markets due to an oligopolistic market, risk of exposure of our data to extraterritorial legislation, as the well-known Cloud Act. And the last one, concerning specifically the banking sector, is a compliance issue. So in a nutshell, I will just shortly describe the last one, because normally I have no time to develop. So compliance issues for banks using cloud service provider are framed by EBA guidelines and very soon DORA regulation. So banks as a regulated industry are required to include certain clauses in external cloud service contract. And these clauses are intended to allow banks and also supervisors to verify the condition in which outsourced services are provided and the level of compliance of the service with regulatory requirement. So all stakeholders should be aware that for all the issues I mentioned, the European Commission has put in place a set of regulation in addition of the GDPR, DSA, DMA, Directive Nice, Cybersecurity, Data Act, DORA regulations, and all these regulations aim to manage this risk by requiring to be compliant by design. That is to say, by taking into account technical and legal requirements from the origin of the relationship until the end of the service provided. So one of the elements of proof of regulatory compliance is not only certifications, not only labels, but I won't say mainly, but also contract between users and cloud providers, which must reflect the level of commitments of the parties in accordance with EU regulations. So I invite everybody who is interested in the subject to download the report. The English and French version are available on the Haut Comité Juridique website.
Thank you very much. So in addition to that early work, Sandrine, you've been leading together with French, German and Italian colleagues the compliance by design work of the data space. What are the objectives of this work? Where do we stand today, and what are the next steps on this work?
Firstly, I would say that thanks to our work in the Haut Comité Juridique de Place, we have capitalized and take advantage of the knowledge developed during this work within the Haut Comité Juridique de Place. So the banking sector compliance by design working group, so gathering European banks, as it was said, was formed to express to Gaia-X the regulatory contractual requirements imposed on the banking sector on cloud outsourcing and the necessary consideration of this regulatory obligation by cloud providers in order to achieve a trusted cloud. So according to the banking sectors, one challenge of the qualification of a European cloud, trusted cloud, will depend on the level of adoption of the legal criteria by Gaia-X. So in this context, a task force made up of banking group, legal advisor, within the working group compliance by design, so with Commerzbank, with Société Générale, BNP, and BPC, has been set up to deliver a position paper addressed to Gaia-X in May 22, developing 8 key contractual issues, non-exhaustive, to be consolidated between cloud providers and banking institutions, which implies cooperation, concrete legal commitments from providers translated into concrete contractual clauses. So among the 8 key contractual issues, I can mention contractual competence law, data, portability, assignment of subcontracting, and etc. The position paper has been addressed to the label and policy rules working group of Gaia-X in order to recommend to take into account the legal contractual requirements into the criteria issued by the policy rules and the label working group. So other users, not only banking users, members of the SIGREF, which is a French network of digital technology users, shared the content of the banking sector position paper since they face exactly the same legal issues. And we are convinced that the inclusion of that legal work from the banking sector will be really helpful for all the users and all the sectors. So where we stand today?
Thank you very much, Sandrine. So it's a key job
I
that
didn't say where we stand today.
Okay. No, we have, so this is a very important job that was done. Now we need to move to the consortia. Stefan, can you say a few words about Eurodat? And I think we have one slide to show what it's exactly about.
Thank you very much. Here you will get 2 slides to watch on one of the projects. It's our major project in the German finance Gaia-X domain. And it's about the topic we hear and talk all the day, I just heard before, data sharing, getting the data out of the silos. We had also this discussion, of course, and we decided to make a test. How far can we go under financial and data protection regulation? And the idea is here with the data trustee. That's a topic discussed in science at the moment and in politics at the EU Commission. Data trustees might be an instrument to overcome data silos to a certain extent. And we will apply here technical and legal developments, new developments to overcome this silo topic. And what we call it, it's a secure execution platform. So it's not a platform where you just gather data and store, but you bring data in and you have an analysis on AI basis. It's on this big data basis, and then you get the result. That's the central idea, and it's the idea to make our economy, our finance sector, more competitive. We have two consortia. You can see here one, that's the Eurodat Data Trustee Consortium. It's focusing on the building up of the data trustee, and I have a good message. It is there already. Go on www.eurodat.org and you can get more information. And I have one more. If you think I will test what this guy up here is talking, that he can overcome silo problems, then please approach us with 2 data packages and then we will check it. I can say in one use case we are just about to do it. We have talked to the Data Protection Authority and we got quite a first very positive feedback on a very complicated case. So, and that is now here really the point why it is so good to have this consortium, because it's a public, academic and commercial consortium. So we as a ministry, and also I'm doing personally the exchange supervision, for example, in Frankfurt on the exchanges and other topics. So we are a supervisory public. We have universities with academic cases in, because there are huge treasures in the central banks and otherwhere. And we have use cases where we want to try to extract these data. That's I want to make sure that Christoph is listening to this also from the ECB. Yeah. And yeah, what I want to say is, what is the basic idea of Eurodat? Please swap to the next slide here. I don't go into detail, but I want to tell you the basic idea behind is that you can see there's one data provider, or several, let's say, because it's only interesting if it's several. The data go into Eurodat. There is this execution of some algorithm, and the result is being put out. And now the core idea is Eurodat doesn't see the data coming in because they're encrypted. It doesn't know the algorithm executing the analysis, and it doesn't see the result being redelivered to the contractual parties. So that means it's just an execution platform. And of course, you have 2 layers. You see the legal layer. That's what Anna Richard and a whole legal team is working on, because you need a lot of contractual work. It's not supposed to take 2 years until you have processed it, but be really fast for commercial reasons also. And you have the technical topic about data decryption, filtration, release, etc., etc. So that's where we are working on. But the prototype is installed, and we are now starting the first cases. What are the cases? I finish with that you get a grip. So what are they now doing concretely? One is financial integrity. That means anti-financial crime, terror financing, anti-money laundering, market integrity, etc. Somehow similar cases. We are working here with public bodies, and we hope to deliver results next year, really. ESG data has been mentioned. The huge topic is now who is going to build ESG data and who is doing analysis on it and delivering it to banks, to credit institutions, to public institutions, to supervisory institutions, to rating agencies. We have a lot of SMEs in Europe, and they don't want to have 20 formats and deliver 20 different analyses. And we offer here a one-stop shop solution with this entry. And then we have also pay-per-use models, very interesting because new technologies, printing new products is a huge topic. And, but SMEs wouldn't afford such a machine on their own, but they have to gather with several, maybe hundreds of players and say, okay, if we together have this machine, we can make it pay-per-use. But no one is trusting the other one. So you need an intermediator. That can be a bank or some other institutions. And here you can process the financing and material data without competitors able to see what is processing it. So that's a big case also. I want to mention finally that the academic topic is also huge because there are a lot of restrictions how to use data, and our European research is missing European data. That's what we always hear. It's mainly done economic research on American data, in fact, because they are much more advanced in this topic. So all our research is producing results for the American research and economy, which is very good and nice, and happy for that. But we should be able to do research on our European data much more. And here, again, we want to make a contribution. So that's the idea. Thank you very much. I know Patrick is looking at me. I'm over in terms of time. Please come to us and test us. We would be happy to include you. We are open for more use cases.
Thank you very much, Stefan. So there are also another funded consortium, which is DreamQuark-led. DreamQuark is a French startup specialized in new generation of ESG and financial data, also focusing on anti-financial crime application. So that consortium has 3 objectives. The first one is to develop and propose off-the-shelf responsible AI apps towards large corporations and SMEs. The second objective is really to facilitate the secured handling on data sets available, and I know that they're in discussions with Eurodat as well. And the third objective is really to facilitate the cooperation of actors in order to develop new frameworks for responsible AI. And the last project in our data space is the Financial AI Cluster, which is a European project led by Dr. Jochen Pappenbrock in Germany, that's onboarding tech actors, NVIDIA, HP, Dell, Domino Data Labs, as well as European research institutes and startups. The objective of that project is to set up a Gaia-X labeled technical platform, so more on the tech side, supporting trustworthy AI and AI for green finance. So we see a convergence on ESG, anti-money laundering, anti-fighting crime. All these topics are key in our industry. To date, that FIAC platform has been set up. Some high-profile use cases have been done. And the next step is really to focus on onboarding more members. I know also that there are discussions between the 3 or 4 consortia in our data space. So as you can see, a lot of energy and momentum in our data space on legal issues, on ESG issues, on anti-money laundering, anti-fighting crimes issues. We definitely think that 2023 is going to be a very exciting year with a lot of things going on.
Thank you very much. This was quite an interesting discussion, and I'd like to kind of summarize it with what Christoph told us, why the ECB had joined. And he said there's essentially 2 reasons. One is you're all doing things that you should share. You know, you want to have jointly a trusted, secure, compliant, standard-based approach to this, where you know how to contract with the right players to execute on this. And there's no competitive advantage there, but there is competitive advantage when it comes to other regions. The second one is where you say, it gives us speed if we do this, and with this speed we can create new value. Now, that can be in the sharing space, like dealing with crime and money laundering is a joint problem. Dealing with ESG is a joint problem. But there's also a huge opportunity for creating new services, combining services among the financial services players, creating complete new ways of doing credit payments, etc. So I think you're onto something that can play a huge role in the world of finance, and the world of finance is hugely important to all of us. So thanks very much, very promising, and looking forward to seeing the data spaces come alive next year. Thank you.